Well, hi guys. So, a lot of people really liked my roleplay pet peeves video. And that got me inspired because I was doing a live stream and someone brought up like any D&D stories and that like hit me cuz I actually have quite a bit. I am in no way a long-term D&D player, and you're going to learn why. So, I already have a feeling this is going to be a long video, but you guys like my long rambly videos. So, let's get started. So, first of all, my first time with D&D, I have four stories for four campaigns. I have only ever been in four campaigns in my entire D&D Dungeons and Dragons nerd life, all right? So, here's the issue. With the first one. The first one was no one would teach anyone in this group. I remember that like wholeheartedly, and it made me really pissed off because this was back when Cody and I were living at my parents' house, and we had it at my parents' house because my parents were the only people who actually had space. My parents had a garage that was set up kind of like a little den area, so there was like a booth and a bunch of tables and stuff, so it was perfect. So I remember what had happened was Cody, I believe Cody was doing a campaign with some of his friends, and they were looking for a place to do it. And I had never heard of it before. I know it's really lame. I had actually never heard of Dungeons and Dragons before that moment. And so I was like, oh, I'd like to join. I'd like to try it out. And so they told me about it. And on top of me joining, I believe, another set of our friends wanted to join really bad. Because my friend's husband was really into it. And my friend was kind of like me, was like, oh, well, I'm willing to learn. It'll be cool. And so we all did it, and I remember we all spent like the first day making D&D sheets. If anybody knows about D&D, you know it takes an entire play session, unless you're doing it on your own, you're doing an online campaign. You spend a whole session making your sheets. And so it was actually really cool. I really liked my character at the time. I don't know, I might actually reuse this character, but I pretty much came up with the idea I wanted a child elf hunter. Like, not like a young elf, like an actual, like she was a child. This is important because I have to bring it up later. This is really important. So, I really like that character, and pretty much, I'm kidding you not, besides making the sheets, no one would teach us how to play. Like, me or any of the new players, because there were a couple of new players. And then, at one point, I remember my little brother joined in. And it was okay, but the sessions were so long because we had so many people. And we had so many questions because there were a lot of noobs in this campaign. I was one of them, but I know for a fact it was myself and like four other noobs, which already sounds like a big group. Trust me, it was a big group. You're gonna see a constant in a lot of these stories, and it just they wouldn't help us, and it was really fucking annoying. Like it wasn't even like we were that like handholdy, but it was like I remember something on my spell slots when I first started playing was like I tried using a spell a second time and they're like, no, you only have that spell slot for once a day. I'm like, well, that would have been nice to have known earlier, you know? Like, oh, you can only do this. And they're like, oh, well, didn't you read the book? I'm like, no, I didn't read the stupid handbook. Why would I read the entire handbook when, one, I didn't own the handbook? Two, the DM at the time wouldn't lend us the handbooks, so it's not even like the only time I'd be able to read the handbook would be at D&D. I wouldn't be able to like borrow it and read it overnight because I would have totally done that. And I'm sorry, I don't know if you guys have known this, but D&D handbooks are fucking expensive. For the physical copies, they are really expensive. I remember because my little brother joined in. This is also important. At the time, he was really young. He was probably like 12 or 11 at the time. This is important. Again, I'm reiterating these. So, when we finally got things going, oh, this bothers me a lot. We finally got things going. I had this one player who wasn't Cody, who kept trying to ship their character with my character. And as I brought up in the beginning, she was a fucking child. And it really made me uncomfortable. And she wasn't like a little kid, but I specifically said, yeah, I want her to be like a preteen. I don't want her to be an adult. I want her to be a kid. So yeah, while she was 100 and something, I always drew her as a child. I talked with, like, as I talked to her, as I talked to her, as I spoke for her, I kind of tried to have her have like a cute little innocent voice to it. And this same guy kept trying to ship their character with mine, and it made me extremely uncomfortable. And Cody didn't notice because he was off playing with his character and just into the thing. I was like, okay, this is a little weird since I specifically said I wanted to be playing as a kid and you're playing an adult. It's really uncomfortable right now. So that's not why this campaign ended. I fucking wish it did. But so because we had so many fucking people, these would end up in like 8-hour play sessions. And then I remember at one point, we just weren't having that much fun anymore, and my parents are like, okay, well, since the kids who live here aren't having that much fun with it, we're not gonna have it at my house anymore. Which is totally understandable. I don't know why I said kids, I was an adult at the time. My brother was a kid, but we weren't having that much fun. So we had to find another place to, like, play. And then we found another place to play, and then they came up with the, figure quote, amazing idea to split our groups. And this made me mad, because my little brother was put in a group that I wasn't in. And he was in a... all I put for the note here was freaking, like, Bookhumpers. He was put in a group of Bookhumpers. I know there's another word for it, but pretty much, like, again, he was new to playing. We were new to playing. And they put him in the group of Bookhumpers. And now Michelle might be asking, what the hell's a Bookhumper? That's a person that's like, well, actually, on page 365, paragraph 2 of the monster guide, like, what are the specific books? It says that you can only do this. And, in the Essential Player's Guide on page 103, paragraph 6, article 7, it's like, dude, what the fuck? Like, every time someone would try to play something, they would quote the book. And then if they were challenged on it, they'd be like, no, go ahead. They would stop the campaign, and they would stop their little group, their mini group campaign, and be like, no, check it. And then they would be like, we don't really want to. No, you're going to check it, because we're not going to play. I'm not going to do my turn until then. And so then the DM of the mini group would be like, okay, we got to stop and read this. And then, like, my brother would look at me like, we've played for maybe, like, 10 minutes of this, like, 3 to 4 hour play session. Like, come on. A lot of people don't understand what D&D is. It's a lot kind of like role-playing. Well, what am I saying? It is fucking role-playing. It's role-playing, but with friends, which is what role-playing is. But anyway, like, you're not supposed to, like, take the book beat by beat. I mean, there are some people that do, but they're usually not that much fun. It's meant to be guidelines for your own stories and stuff. But, so that happened, and then I remember they, like, were openly abusing my little brother's character, and I can't think of a reason why, literally, other than he was a new player and didn't know a lot of things. Because I remember, like, he just full on stopped going, and he told us, he's like, this isn't fun anymore. Like, they purposefully single out my character only, and they do all this stuff, and then when I try to fight back, they're like, no, in the handbook it says I can do this. Oh, in the handbook it says I can do that. And then, no. So my brother stopped going. So that pissed me off. And then, in our little mini group, oh, this made me so mad. We had a person that every time it was their turn, it wasn't even a friend of mine, it was like it wasn't even a friend of Cody's, he was like a friend of the DM's or something, and he would be like, pass, where he would just kind of sit there through all of the campaigns. And I remember one time I asked him, like, dude, what are you doing here? He's like, oh, my character's doing stuff off screen, none of you guys know about it. I talked to the DM before we did this, and I'm like, then dude, why are you here? Like, I kid you not, for these, like, 4 to 8 hour play sessions, this guy would just sit there and watch us. He would never play. Never. He would always say his character was off doing something in the background, and none of us had met his character yet. And it was just weird. I'm like, do you really have nothing better to do for 4 to 8 hours than just sit here? It wasn't like we were talking about other things. We were trying to play the game. So that group eventually died because at one point, I shit you not, the DM just messaged us like, yeah, I'm not doing it anymore. D&D's closed. And we were like, oh, okay, no closure, no, nothing? Okay. I guess that's it. So then skip to about, I think it was a year later. It was like a full year or so later. And then we had the same kind of situation. We had nowhere to play. But then when we finally found a place, we decided to make a new campaign with a smaller group. But it was still a pretty big group. The place worked out great, but then there were some people who, and this wasn't just one person, this was a few people who were like, oh, it's in a public setting? Well, I don't feel like being a nerd in a public setting. And we're like, it's at a game shop. that's literally made for D&D. Like, we found a game shop that was literally made for, like, D&D and Warhammer and nerd shit, and they sold nerd shit. It's probably the least likely place someone's gonna fucking judge you for being a fucking nerd. And they're like, yeah, if we're not doing it at someone's house, I'm not gonna go. And so we're like, okay, that kind of sucks, but we get it. And the other person was like, yeah, just no, I don't like being out in public. I'd rather be at someone's house. And we're like, okay, well, we don't have a house, so I guess you're not. And then they were pissed. These two people were pissed that we kept doing the game without them. We were like, we want to play D&D. I want to get better at this game. This game seems really, really fun and really cool. But no, that was the issue. And so, at the time, too, this was a really big thing for Cody and I, because I remember. At this time, we had moved out. We had moved out and moved into my in-laws this time. So, we were really, like, happy to get out of our house and do things with our friends because of where we live, because we live pretty far away. We live about a 45-minute drive with no traffic away from our friends and, like, where this area was. So it was still a drive, but it was a doable drive, if you know what I mean. And so we like doing it just to get out of the fucking house and, like, hang out with our friends and be fucking nerds. But, anyway, that one was fun. But then the freaking place we had it at just died off somewhere. I literally don't remember what happened. I remember the DM at the time was a different DM than the first one. Like, kept canceling and kept canceling and kept canceling to the point where I remember we hadn't had a game in, like, we probably hadn't had a game in, like, maybe a month or two. I'm leaning more towards 2 months, but I remember it was like straight. He's like, "Oh, the game's just canceled," and we're like, "Okay, I guess we haven't done it in like 2 months." So that's how that one ended. Then the next one is probably my only good D&D story in here, because I did have a good experience with D&D, and it was, like, one of the perfect ones, and I'm, like, really sad that this one ended, but this one ended for the most realistic reason, which is why I wasn't pissed, okay? So, this was a smaller group. It was a max of, I believe, 4 people when we started, I believe, and the DM. Yeah, we had one person dip out, but that was fine. We still had 3 players, and we had a good time. And our DM was, our DM, for one, was a very well veteran DM. He's a really good online friend of mine. And I don't mind shouting him out. His name's Zach. Zach, if you're watching me now, you're good DM boy. He'd been playing D&D a long ass fucking time. So when he wanted to DM our little group, we had a lot of fun. We worked with each other. We didn't do it in person, though. We couldn't do it in person. So we each had, like, we all had each other on, I believe it was Skype at the time. It could have been Discord, but I believe it was Skype. And we'd all play on, I think it was either, like, roll20.net or .com, whatever. It was a really cool D&D website. And it should still be up. But he was a great DM. He was very fair. We each had our roles. Frickin' our play sessions were never longer than, like, 2 hours, which was also great. I know it sounds lame, because it's like, oh, well, you want to keep playing. Yes, I do. But those, like, 2 to 3 hours felt so nice because we did nothing but play. I actually got to play the stupid game. Because in all of the other stories, our groups were so big and our turns were so short that I probably would have played maybe, at max, maybe an hour of, like, a 4 to 8 hour play session. So I would bring other shit to do. That's important for another story of my last session that happened last time. After this one. But yeah, it was the longest running one. It was very consistent. We were all very fair to each other, and we had a great time. Oh my god, like, I finally felt like this is what D&D is supposed to be. This is what everyone's talking about. And the reason why we had to cancel our campaign was simply that our DM got a really good job, and a couple of other people got really good jobs, and our schedules just didn't mix. And that was, for me, the most realistic reason to end a campaign. Unless you actually finished a campaign. But I was like, no, that makes sense. Like, all of us are working now. None of our schedules have wiggle room. We're gonna have to end it. But I had such a good time with this group. I loved my character. I think she was one of my best tieflings I'd ever made. And it was so much fun. And I still miss it. But, like, it never made me mad. It never made me mad like my fucking other stories I'm about to tell you. Because the last one takes the cake out of all the other shit. So, Lord, made me cry. Oh, wait, there is one thing I forgot to mention. I totally forgot to mention. So in the past group, the one where it was like the DM kept canceling on us, the bad one. I totally forgot. The shipper was back, and he only stopped trying to ship with me when I literally made a freaking male character, and that made me also really upset and really angry. But I forgot to mention that. It's like, oh yeah, make a prepubescent elf girl, that's fine. But I make an elf dude who's an adult who's all ready for it. No, that's not cool. What? No. So, totally forgot about that. But yeah, so I forgot to mention that. That's really important because that like really stuck out to me. It was like, what the fuck? So, then anyway, in the next one, I still miss that good campaign. That one was so good. That was so much fun. But good things have to come to an end eventually. So now let's get into the trifecta, the nail in the coffin for me, which is why I'm willing to give D&D a chance, but still not for a long time. And that is my last group. So we decided to have it at Aerofex's house because at the time they had gotten a room remodeled, so it was a really big room. We all had a place to go. It was at a friend's house. We had a veteran DM. It was a finger quote smaller group, but it was still a pretty big group because when you know a bunch of nerds like Cody and I do, you end up having like your partner wanting to play as well. So we ended up having like couples playing. And so the problem with our last group, I honestly have to be, was our DM. And it wasn't that he was a bad guy. It was that he was too nice. And when to have a good DM, you need to have someone who's fair, not someone who's nice. And I know it might sound weird, and if my friend's watching this right now, I still love you, dude. I do. But you were too nice. And they were focusing on, like, everybody having a good time that nobody had a good time, if you know what I'm saying. And so, because the group was so big, I shit you not, myself, Aerofex's character, my friend, my one of my other female friends' character, and one other character, which, ironically enough, two of those people, me and the one guy, were the ones who were we had to drive the farthest to get to Aerofex's house, like, compared to everybody else. I remember he had to drive even farther because he lives in fucking Victorville, so that's a lot farther than where, like, I live, so we would go there, and I remember I would bring my sketchbook, and I would bring things to do, because I knew we would get overtaken because the other people's campaigns were more interesting, I guess, in a way, but we never got a chance to really fucking do anything with ours. So, anyway, we were playing, and I remember I was playing this really cute necromancer Naga girl that I made. Naga, Lamia, whatever you want to call it. I called them Nagas for the longest time. Because my friend's like, oh, they added Sneeple, but if you want, you can make her a Naga. And so I made her a really cute necromancer, and I really liked her. But after you hear the end of this story, I had to sell her off because looking at her made me mad. And so she's got a very good home now with one of my friends, so I'm happy that she's getting used by that. But we didn't get to do much. Bottom line is, I remember we would roll something, and then it either, like, wouldn't hit, which happens sometimes, or it would, I totally forgot about that! Fuck! Okay, no, I forgot to write this down. But in my very first D&D campaign, we had fucking cheaters. I totally forgot about this. So, in my very first campaign, I know I'm all over the damn place, but I totally forgot about this, and it's really fucking important. There was an app that our friends would use, because a lot of our friends are like us, and they're broke dick motherfuckers, okay? And so they were like, well, we can't afford dice. By the way, dice is like fucking $10, alright? So if you can't afford $10 dice, I don't understand how you can afford the like $80 handbooks. Logic to me, I don't know. So, and I know for a fact they weren't gifts. They bought the handbooks. So don't be like, oh, maybe it was a gift. I know for a fact they bought them because they told us they bought them. Anyway, they'd have an app on their phone that would let you play D&D, would let you roll without having dice. And I remember what they would do is they would hold their phone like really close to their face. They'd roll, and then they'd say, nat 20, 16, 18, like they would always have high numbers. And then when people would like ask to see it, they would like re-roll, and they're like, oh no, see, I reset it. And, like, they would always hold it really close to their phone, and we'd catch them. Sometimes we'd even catch them, like, doing it, like, twice or 3 times, which is not the point of fucking D&D. The point is you roll with the punches. You roll with the dice. That's the whole point. It's not fun to always win. Sometimes you want to lose, because that's when the funny shit happens. I remember, and I kid you not, one of the funniest moments from that first campaign, that was great, was one of my friends really, really had to use the bathroom. And they were like, you have to go, you have to roll before you use the bathroom. And so he's like, fine, I roll to take a shit on this door, like his character, take a shit on this door to see if it'll explode, because he really had to fucking go. So he threw it, and he got a nat 20, and our DM was like, well, shit, he critically shit the door, and it exploded, and he's like, good, now I'm gonna go blow up your toilet. So then my friend left. I know, my friends are crass. But that was, like, one of the funniest fucking moments, and that's, like, the whole point of D&D, is having fun with your fucking friends. Huh! Back to the last story. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention the whole cheaters thing, because the dice thing was a big thing. I remember that now. Because some people were bitching about having to buy their own dice. And I remember our DM at the time of the last D&D story, he had, like, this, like, giant bag of dice, where it was a bunch of different ones that he would let us borrow, so there was literally no excuse. But that happened. The shipper was finally gone, thank God. But myself, Aerofix, and our 2 other friends kept getting ignored and kept being forgotten. And it was just, these were a minimum of 8-hour play sessions. I remember it was a minimum of 8-hour play sessions every single time. And I remember there would be times where, like, Cody and I would come home and we're like, we barely did anything. Is it even worth it at this point? Like, we're having fun, but this is 8 hours of our day. This is a whole work day where we're barely doing anything. And so this was the nail in the coffin for me. And this might not sound like much compared to all the other stories here today. Here today, class. But one of my biggest pet peeves of all time, and it's like the top of the list for me, is wasted time. I know I'm a workaholic and I talk about it all the time, but wasted time is something I can never get back. You can make money back. You can make friends. You can do this and that. You can't get time back, okay? And it is one of my biggest pet peeves to be screwed around and wasted time. So, we had just started our play session. I remember I went to Aerofx's earlier that day, and I brought my Wii U. This is really fucking important. I brought my Wii U because Breath of the Wild, I think, had, like, just come out. If not, like, that week, probably the week before. So I've been playing it like crazy, and I wanted to show Anna and Chris. And so, plugged it up, I was playing, I was showing them, it was really cool. And yes, I know I had the Wii U version, I didn't have a Switch at the time. I didn't have a lot of money, okay? Fight me. So, I had my stuff already set up, alright? And, D&D started, we were having a good time, and then I remember it was my turn, and the DM said something like, oh, when no one's looking, you get attacked, or something like that. Like, I remember my character got arrested. And I was very confused why, and I was like, okay. And then they, like, full on threw my character in jail, and I still don't remember why they threw my character in jail. And so, I tried to break out, and I got a nat 1, which, you know, nat 1s mean you fucking fail. And I was like, okay, but then the DM decided, instead of just having me, like, hurt myself, which normally would have happened, they bound and gagged my character, they tied her in a jail cell, and apparently no one else in the campaign was supposed to know this happened to me, like, at all. And so it would come back to my turn, and I remember being like, I'm bound, I'm gagged, and I'm literally stapled to a wall from what you've told me. And no one knows I'm here. What can I do? I can't do spells. My character's not physically strong. What can I do? And he was like, oh, well, you can pass. And I was like, okay. Now this, again, happened in the beginning of the play session. All right. And so I got a little annoyed, and I'm like, I think it went through my turn maybe 2 or 3 times before I was like, I was done. I was like, I don't think I'm going to play today. I literally thought that. And I remember, like, a couple of the other players, yeah, they were being meta, but they were like, can we go look for Michelle's character? And the DM was like, no, you guys don't know she got kidnapped. It's going to come back later. And so everybody was like, looking at me, And I'm like, did I piss the DM off or something? I was really confused. And then I found out, no, he had a whole plot in his head. Yeah. So I had my Wii U. And instead of playing D&D, I played Breath of the Wild for 8 hours and then went home. Because at the end of the story, my character didn't even get out of jail. I remember she got out of jail the next play session. And I told Cody, and I told the DM, I'm like, hey, if my character's gonna stay in jail, I'm just not going next week. Because I wasted 8 hours doing shit I could have been doing at home. I wasted gas, I wasted money. And yeah, I had fun at Aerofix's beforehand, but I would have gone home hours earlier. Because our play sessions wouldn't usually end until fucking midnight. And while I'm normally a night owl and that's fine, I was pissed. And then, like, I remember I don't even think I went the next play session because I think my character was still in fucking jail. And then I went to the last one. And then, in character, my character was traumatized because she just got bound and gagged. And so I had to, like, try to, like, play in character. And they're like, what's wrong? Nah. And I'm like, well, I kind of feel like my character right now. I kind of feel cheated. You know, like, for two whole 8-hour play sessions. My character was in a prison cell suffering somewhere. For literally no fucking reason. Because I remember, right after that play session, there might have been, like, maybe one more. Our group disbanded because my DM was like, oh, I'm not having fun anymore. And, like, I remember, like, it wasn't my fault. And everyone's like, no, that wasn't fair on you. Your character was stuck there, and you literally didn't do anything for hours. Plus, so-and-so's character's getting screwed over, other person's character's getting screwed over, and Anna's character's getting screwed over. We're just not having fun anymore. And I told myself, like, it sounds really dumb, but because I had actually made a reference sheet. I really liked this character. I really liked this little necromancer snake girl. And I couldn't even look at her. I literally couldn't look at her for over a year. Before I'm like, I can't even redesign you. I can't reuse you. You make me angry just looking at you. So I had to resell her. And it put such a bad taste in my mouth for D&D for such a long time that, like, even now I'm still, like, on the fence about it, to where I like, if I ever do a play session again, it'll probably be an online one with a very small group of trusted friends and a DM who I know is a veteran DM. I know I can't DM because I'm not even technically a veteran player because I've never gotten that far. But yeah, there's my D&D horror stories. Those are my experiences. Hopefully in the future I can get into D&D again and have fun and have a good time. But as of right now, it's probably not likely. And again, it wholly comes down to my DM, my groups of friends. It doesn't come down to the actual game itself. Because like I said, I had one great experience with it. But one great experience doesn't outweigh 3 terrible ones. And so, I'll leave it here. I hope you guys enjoyed. And as always, guys, I will see you next time. Bye!